Located about 2 kilometers off the coast of San Francisco is Alcatraz Island, which was first used as a U.S. military base and then converted into a federal prison in 1934, surrounded by cold waters with temperatures around 10 degrees Celsius year-round and strong currents that pull objects away from shore. Alcatraz Prison, nicknamed The Rock, was considered escape-proof. However, this reputation led to neglect in maintaining the prison, as it was believed that reinforcement work was unnecessary. This resulted in the deterioration of some of Alcatraz's facilities, which was exploited in one of the most dramatic prison breaks in history. The escape involved 4 inmates: Frank Morris, brothers John and Clarence Anglin, and Alan West. The first, Alan West, had a prior record of attempted prison escapes, having tried to escape from a Florida prison before being transferred to Alcatraz in 1957, where it was believed no one could escape. John and Clarence Anglin were brothers who had committed several robberies together until they were sentenced to 20 years in prison in 1958. They were transferred to multiple prisons before an escape attempt at Atlanta led to their transfer to Alcatraz in 1960 and 1961, respectively. The last member of the group, Frank Morris, was an abandoned child who started committing crimes at age 13. Despite his troubled upbringing, Morris was highly intelligent, with an IQ of 133, placing him in the top 2%. Escaping from Alcatraz required more than just getting past the prison walls. The inmates also had to cross the treacherous waters surrounding the island to reach land 2 kilometers away. Knowing this, the group devised a plan that involved creating decoy human heads from soap, toilet paper, and toothpaste. They even attached hair to the fake heads to make them as realistic as possible. This trick allowed them to carry out their escape without being detected until the morning of June 12, 1962, when a guard accidentally knocked one of the fake heads onto the floor. Reports indicate that the escape may have been planned as early as December 1961, when the cells of the 4 inmates were arranged next to each other. Over the course of 6 months, the group began digging through the walls around the ventilation ducts in their cells. Since the walls were only about 15 centimeters thick, this task was manageable with enough time. The main challenge was masking the noise, but they were fortunate that Alcatraz allowed prisoners an hour of free time each day to play musical instruments. Morris's accordion, along with other prisoners' instruments, helped cover the sound of their digging. Over the course of 6 months, the group began digging through the walls around the ventilation ducts in their cells. Since the walls were only about 15 centimeters thick, this task was manageable with enough time. The main challenge was masking the noise, but they were fortunate that Alcatraz allowed prisoners an hour of free time each day to play musical instruments. Morris's accordion, along with other prisoners' instruments, helped cover the sound of their digging. Once the holes in their cells were large enough, the group used them to escape into an unguarded corridor behind the cells. This led to a secret workshop above the cell block, where they constructed tools for their escape each night. When all preparations were complete, the escape took place on the night of June 11, 1962. The 4 men placed the decoy heads on their beds and began crawling through the holes they had dug. Unfortunately, Alan West's hole had been sealed by hardened concrete, preventing him from joining the others. The remaining 3 continued with the plan, climbing up a drain pipe to the prison roof. At around 10:30 p.m., a guard reported hearing a metallic noise, which experts believe was the sound of the men opening the ventilation cover leading to the roof. From the roof, they climbed down to the island's northeast shore, where they had prepared life vests and a raft made from 50 raincoats stitched together. They inflated the raft using Morris's accordion. Their plan was to row to Angel Island, about 3 kilometers away from Alcatraz, and from there cross Raccoon Strait to reach the mainland. The next morning, when the prison escape was discovered, a massive search was launched involving San Francisco police, the FBI, and the U.S. Coast Guard. However, The 3 inmates and their raft had vanished without a trace. What had happened? Did they successfully escape and live in freedom somewhere? Or did they perish, their bodies lost to the waters of San Francisco Bay? On June 14, 1962, 2 days after the escape, a wooden paddle was found in the water between Alcatraz and Angel Island, confirmed to belong to the escapees. On the same day, a wallet wrapped in plastic containing the names, addresses, and photos of the Anglin brothers' relatives and friends was also discovered in this area. The search continued until June 21st, when a piece of a raincoat, believed to be from the raft, was found near the Golden Gate Bridge. The next day, a life jacket made from the same raincoat material was found just 45 meters from Alcatraz. These were the last confirmed pieces of evidence connected to the inmates. Adding to the mystery, no sightings of the 3 men in San Francisco were reported in the following years, strengthening the belief that they drowned. On July 17, 1962, the crew of the SS Norafjell cargo ship reported seeing a body floating 30 kilometers from the Golden Gate Bridge. 7 months later, a skeleton washed ashore at Point Reyes, matching the height and age of Frank Morris. However, without concrete proof, the bodies were never conclusively identified, and the skeleton was buried under the name John Bones Doe and forgotten. Based on the available evidence, the FBI concluded that Frank, John, and Clarence perished in the bay during their escape. Yet, without bodies, the case remains unsolved, leaving open the possibility that they escaped. Each year, a triathlon is held in San Francisco, featuring a 2.5-kilometer swim in the same waters. According to records, no participant has ever failed to complete the swim from Alcatraz to the mainland. Moreover, the escapees had a raft, paddles, and life vests to aid them. Years later, David Widner recounted that his grandmother, Rachel Anglin, continued to receive roses on Mother's Day with cards signed John or Clarence after the escape. Widner also claimed that when Rachel died, 2 strange women, heavily veiled and with thick makeup, attended her funeral, seemingly trying to conceal their identities. This convinced Widner that his uncles had survived. Another clue came when Robert Anglin, John and Clarence's brother, made a deathbed confession, confirming they were alive. Their friend, Fred Brizzi, later provided the family with a photo taken in Brazil in 1975, supposedly showing John and Clarence. However, when experts from the U.S. Marshals examined the photo, while they confirmed it was taken in 1975, they couldn't conclusively identify the men in it as the Anglin brothers. The case faded until 2013 when an anonymous letter was sent to the San Francisco police. The letter claimed that Frank and Clarence had died in 2008 and 2011, respectively, and that the author was willing to surrender in exchange for medical treatment for his cancer. However, the police were unable to verify the letter, and the writer never came forward. To this day, the fate of the Alcatraz escapees remains unknown. The U.S. Marshals Service continues to investigate the case until the men would be 100 years old. Perhaps someday, Frank, John, or Clarence will reappear to reveal the conclusion to this daring and audacious escape.